All right, welcome in on this Tuesday, the Maize and Blue Review, Afternoon Live, ready to get things underway. And you know what? Yeah, you're energized if you're a Michigan fan after Sunday. Yes, you are. And here to talk a little Michigan is senior writer, Maize and Blue Review, Brandon Justice, who is not just sitting home on the couch, thinking about baseball. He's been on the move, and we get to him right now. What's going on, Brandon?
Not too much. Just got out of the Jim Harbaugh press conference here in Ann Arbor at Schembechler Hall. So coming to you live from the parking lot today, and not my best outfit on Afternoon Live of the season, but it's not about how you start; it's about how you finish. So there's going to be better ones at the end here. But doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. I like you sound a little bit like Jim Harbaugh. Did he predict Michigan to go to undefeated and be right back there in the college football playoffs, anything like that? Any wild predictions from Jim?
No, one thing he did keep echoing though was that it's scary good. He kept saying scary good. State of the program is scary good, and that's really not something we've heard from him. Obviously, it's Jim Harbaugh. He's always going to be positive, and that's always going to ring true for him. However, he did continue to use that phrasing, scary good, scary good, scary good, and the context of that was just he has this feeling in the building that everyone around has been encouraging and empowering, and he says that the days go by quicker because of the players that surround him in the building, and the coaches in the building, the new coaches, the coaches who are returning, et cetera, et cetera. So really positive reflections from him. He also talked about the NFL a bit, and basically said that door, he did cement that the door is closed, and that the Schefter report that you might remember, where the Schefter had reported, he informed Ward Manuel that was it for him with any interest in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh did confirm that today. So it was an overall very positive press conference. It went about 28 minutes, which is, as if anyone that's ever watched a Jim Harbaugh press conference, that's extremely irregular. You don't see that. Typically he goes 15 at most. To get 28 minutes out of him, it's an off day for the team, so it's not alarming it's not shocking that it went long. But to go 28 minutes with Jim Harbaugh, that says that the guy's in a good mood. And if he's in a good mood, typically good things are going on around the building.
He should be in a good mood. Michigan basketball fans are in a good mood after Sunday afternoon, after beating Ohio State and clinching, getting in the big dance. And Michigan football fans, they should be in a great mood all off season. It's been different than the past off seasons. Beating Ohio State, I don't have to go all the way through it. And, hearing the coach talk about him being scary good, that just should fuel your fire or your excitement about the offseason. What about this, which you tweeted yesterday, and it was about J.J. McCarthy saying he will not require surgery following a reevaluation of his shoulder, will participate in a little capacity during spring ball. Did the coach elaborate at all on J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah, he did go on to confirm that news, that he did not require surgery after consulting with, as he called it, experts, and that they have a short-term plan and a long-term plan for JJ, and it does not involve surgery. And he will be, seems like, and this is more paraphrasing than anything, it seems like he's going through a little bit of like a physical therapy type of trial to get through this. And that's typically what happens with any injury. You're going to make one of two decisions. You're going to get the surgery, and quote unquote, you've heard this more often than not, get it over with a surgery, or go through the physical therapy. The problem with surgery is sometimes you can come back not the same. You can obviously prolong your absence and how long you're out for, whereas physical therapy is more rebuilding and is a little bit of a different process. Sometimes you can re-risk the injury, but it's just a little bit different. So Harbaugh went on to basically say that they consulted all the experts in the country, the best football doctors in the country, which came to the conclusion that the surgery wasn't necessary, and they opted to kind of take the short-term, long-term plan. He's not throwing right now, according to Jim Harbaugh. No sort of timeline was confirmed by him. He said they're just sticking with the plan, going with the plan. But from what I've know based on what we said on the board, and obviously if you guys haven't read the post on our board in the Wolverine Den that was linked in that tweet that was just referenced on the screen there, we did go on to say that he's expected to be fully good by fall. So by fall camp, they expect him to be full go. They will allow him to participate in the spring, but it will be limited. We don't know the extent of the plan, and Jim Harbaugh did not go into details on the exact plan. But it seems like he probably won't be a full participant in the spring game. I probably would lean towards him not throwing at all in that game either, or really playing. But they're definitely taking what they believe is the route that gets him healthy by the season, without that injury being re-risked. And he did not know whether this was and this is not uncommon, but Jim Harbaugh was asked if there was a certain play that hurt J.J. McCarthy's shoulder, or if it was a wear and tear type of situation. Now, in baseball, I can relate here. There is wear and tear that happens over time with the shoulder, similar to quarterback. Your job is to throw, and that's stress on the shoulder. Your shoulder's not meant to do those kinds of things, right? So the question was, it's hard to know one way or the other. At some point, your shoulder just starts to hurt and it lingers. So you can't really go back to a certain event or situation. You don't know if it's wear or tear. So I don't think it was Jim Harbaugh really putting a curtain over things or in front of things. I think it was just the mere reality of the situation is we don't really know, right? So that's about all he dove into on it. But he did confirm the news, and that's great news, I think, that J.J. McCarthy was able to get reevaluated and determined that he won't need the surgery that he once thought he was going to have to get.
Yeah, it was terrible news when we heard about it. Then
right.
Today or yesterday seemed like better news. You're right. When it comes down to pitchers and quarterbacks, you never want to hear anything about the shoulder. They've got so good with elbows and Tommy Johns and knees and everything else, but their shoulder is the one thing where that sends up red flags and alarms. It's just the worry red flags and worry alarms whenever it's a shoulder that, like, oh no, this is it. But so you can understand, but this
right.
is the future of Michigan football at the most important position. So everybody's a little bit like, but yeah, J.J. McCarthy and his family and Jim Harbaugh might not know, what it's going to be like in 2-3 months. And I do believe that they have a lot of, consulting a lot. It would be stupid not to be consulting every single person. So,
exactly.
There you are. So, and I know that, that baseball part with the pitchers, like that's, they don't want to go. They don't want to have surgery. So if they can go through any kind of rehab to get it better.
Yeah, surgery can sometimes feel like a little bit of a death sentence towards your the year you're about to have, really, because how long you're out for it's such a wild card at that point. Because not only do you have to have the surgery, you have to recover from the surgery. Not only do you have to recover from the injury that you originally sustained, now you have to recover from that plus the surgery itself. Any hiccups you have along the way, prolong things. It's kind of like when you're taking a long drive and you originally have an arrival of, the blank time, but as soon as you hit traffic, it just gets longer and longer. So you just hit traffic along the way with those recoveries, and it's just a big risk. And it could also be, again, the quote unquote get it over with thing. And this is a good time to get the surgery because you are so far out from the season. But again, I think in injuries, what I've always thought, what I've heard more often than not, is that if you can avoid surgery, avoid it.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Although I do remember when Drew Brees was playing with the Chargers and he had, I don't know the exact, but he had shoulder surgery, and that scared a lot of teams away from him in free agency. And the Saints took a chance on him, and you never heard about that shoulder again. So it can work out. So all right, well, that seems like pretty good news there. Anything else that would be newsworthy that Harbaugh had to say about the team? Anybody switching positions or missing time? Do you address any of that?
Yeah, Rod Moore had a surgery from an injury during the season, so he'll miss the spring. Mike Sanderstill is moved to nickel corner, but Jim Harbaugh did say that that's not officially going to be his position. He may still play offense. He even mentioned that Sanderstill has the opportunity to potentially be a three-way player, special teams, defense, and offense. He mentioned that there are a couple of other guys who have switched sides. Jaden McBurrows suffered an injury as well. But he, again, I kind of rambled there, but the guys who have switched around are more like subtle switches, like interior to outside or outside backer to inside backer, not so much switching from one side to the other. So that's about it. And then he also mentioned that Iman Dennis had switched sides. He's working on the offense now. So that's about it as far as position changes and missing time goes.
What about, I would have asked Brandon if I was there, I would have said, Hey Jim, you got two players that are going to be picked in the first round of the NFL draft. Anybody emerging at the rush end? Was that question asked?
Yeah, so they did ask if there's anybody in the defensive line emerging, and he had a lot to say about Mike Morris. He did actually drop the line that he thinks Mike Morris could be, the next Hutchinson or Ojabo of that group. So a really big fan of Mike Morris and his last year here as a Wolverine coming up this year. He had other names to mention as well. Mozzie Smith, not an edge rusher guy, but Mozzie Smith has had a terrific spring so far, building on a nice ending to 2021 out of the interior tackle as well. And he went on to mention a couple others, such as Braden McGregor, a guy that I think a lot of people are excited about this year. He has that similar build to Hutchinson. He has a similar drive to Hutchinson. Not to mention they do kind of look alike. So you got that going for you too, I guess. Both in-state guys. With that in mind, those are some of the guys he mentioned as emergers on that side. He also went on to talk about the receivers, the freshman receivers, and the incoming trio of Darius Clemens, Tyler Morris, and Amarian Walker. And he has said this before, and he said it again. He said it on a podcast with John Jansen, said it again today. Described those three as freak shows, and so that they have, physically come in and really shown that they're going to, stick around and stick with everything. He also mentioned that Ronnie Bell is running, but he is not a full participant or really participating. He's still just coaching. So he's doing a heck of a job of coaching. But, I don't know if you remember this. It's any listeners at home or watchers at home. In the late summer, in the early fall, when Ronnie Bell had the injury, they mentioned that the target date for him to be able to run was spring camp. Or at spring camp, he is running. So Harbaugh did confirm that he is still on track with all of his recovery and should be back by the season with all those things in mind. But a trend that we continue to see with Michigan, which is a good one, a good trend, is that they're really not rushing getting guys back. Obviously, there's no reason to rush anyone back in right now. But even thinking about Ronnie Bell's recovery as a whole, they're letting him really leg this thing out, no pun intended, so that he can hopefully by fall be ready to go as a full participant for that first game.
Yeah, especially if you got the freshman freak show
right.
going on. That's good.
Iron sharpens iron, so that'll be a group that's going to definitely rub off on another. Ronnie Bell and Darius Clemens, those two guys on the outside. If that comes to fruition with those two guys on the outside, that's dangerous, man. I mean, you're talking about two guys that are really separate themselves, I think, from the group as far as vertical threats on the outside. So I think it's an exciting duo there. I don't know if Clemens is going to rise as a true freshman or not. I think he's got all the skill sets to do so. We've talked about it since signing day. We thought he's a guy that could possibly do that. But with Coach Harbaugh mentioning Clemens today, I think it all but confirms that he's going to get that look. And so, yeah, you think about if Bell does come back and you have guys like Ronnie Bell and Darius Clemens and Cornelius Johnson and AJ Henning and what have you competing. You got a lot of good talent there. You wonder what the scheme is going to look like this year in comparison to last year with Josh Gaddis gone. A lot of the pin and pull, jet sweep run stuff where the back is out blocking and the receiver's taking the handoffs. You wonder if that's going to come back again. You think so because you got the perfect guy for with AJ Henning. But you wonder if maybe they delve away from it or what they do. But I guess that's the excitement about spring football, right?
Well, I think as much as they ran the ball last year with all that talent that you just talked about on the outside, they might have to throw it that much. So,
yeah, and they've got two guys that can do it, and some sources I've been talking to over the past couple of weeks have really indicated that, the outside noise about the JJ and Cade battle is really interesting because it's mostly wrong. It seems like within the building, they're really anticipating this to be another 2 QB system again this year. They love Cade McNamara. Cade McNamara has had a tremendous start to spring. I had heard that before today's press conference. Jim Harbaugh mentioned it today that Cade has been doing really well, just super sharp, doing what Cade does. I mean, he's not going to do anything that's going to wow you in spectacular movements or anything, but he's not going to make many mistakes, if ever, and he continues to be that sharp. So those two are definitely going to complement each other come the season, as long as JJ is healthy, of course.
Well, and it could be a blessing in disguise talking about that shoulder setback with JJ McCarthy, because if they were, fighting it out in the spring and one of them emerged as the starter, the other one might have thought about hightailing it out of there and going somewhere else via the transfer portal. But now that you're not going to see as much from McCarthy, I don't know if that's optimistic way to look at that injury. Let's take over to basketball really quick. A lot of energy, a lot of vibe, good vibe coming out of that win Sunday, and now Michigan's sitting back. I don't know if you know anything about stomach ailments and Dickinson's availability on Thursday, but there's a lot of talk that Michigan may be better splitting the two big men up if Hunter does return, the way it looked out there with Devontae Jones in the room that he had, and obviously the chemistry that he had with Moussa Diabate running that high screen and roll. What do you think about this team and a potential run in Indianapolis?
I'll tell you what, I think more than anything, that performance they had on Sunday was inspired more than anything. Strategic, absolutely. Not having Hunter Dickinson, not having a guy underneath that's going to be a primary scorer who can score from, outside of 15 feet and all of that. Diabate is more of a rim guy. He's not going to do a whole lot with the jumper outside of it like Hunter is. So your offense got a little bit more simpler underneath, and then he was able to use the perimeter a little more. And then but really the story was always going to be Devontae Jones with that game based on it, the way he ran the floor so well. Now, as far as if Dickinson and Diabate can coexist on the floor or not, and it's something we've asked ourselves quite a bit this year. You always wonder if it's going to be clogged when you have those two guys there. Do they complement each other well, or do they kind of not bat heads literally, but, is it counterproductive when they're both out there next to each other? And you wonder, but, it's just one of those things where I think it's a good problem to have. But it's something you have to figure out before March comes, because a big difference in that game against Ohio State was Diabate's presence and Devontae Jones's ability to not only score, but create all of his opportunities and then create opportunities for others in the process. How he was able to find Diabate, how those two were able to work together so well, like you said, was pretty, encouraging for the future. So we'll see what happens here. Again, I am no basketball expert. I will always mention that when we talk about basketball, because the Diabate is going to give you this big man kind of like inspired effort like Jordan Morgan used to have, but with like way more skills and a far bigger frame. And he's going to leap way higher. So it will be interesting to see. Now, as far as the momentum they have, I mean, I wrote about Phil Martelli before this stretch shook out. I think he was the perfect guy for the situation. We talked about it on the show after the suspension, and we mentioned how this was this window of opportunity for Michigan to basically look like the season starts now type of deal, right? So you had that 5-game stretch, and that was a season in and of itself. You needed that 5-game stretch. That was a season of itself. Now the next season starts. And then when you get if you get past the first round, the next one starts. So, they can kind of forget about all the troubles they had leading up to this point. Juwan Howard's back. They can forget about how he got suspended and the things with Wisconsin. They can forget about those things now. They can breathe a little bit because they're going to make the tournament. And now you have this opportunity to potentially make a run in the Big Ten tournament. They've proven they can beat Indiana. They've proven they can compete with a lot of teams in this conference. They've proven they can absolutely maul Purdue. So, who knows what this team is capable of. As we know, they're so wildly inconsistent that it's really hard to put a pin on which team is going to show up on, any given day. But when this team is at its best, it's a team that was properly ranked before the year when it's at its best. It's just, can they consistently be at their best, or can they be at their best even just 80% of the time, to give them an opportunity to make this run, not only in the Big Ten tournament, but in the NCAA tournament as well, because we saw last year with UCLA, a team that had talent and was very good from a paper perspective, but could not win those games and had a similar record to Michigan, had a first-round bounce in the Pac-12 tournament, and then went on to the Final Four. So it's like I said, it's funny how it's not only is it sports, it's college basketball, and it's March, and these things are wicked. And Michigan, we would be lying if we said Michigan didn't have a talented basketball team. They do. They can really stack up against anyone talent-wise. It's just a matter of which team shows up that day.
Brandon Justice predicting a long run in the Big Ten and in the NCAA tournament. Just kidding. We have breaking news. It's 4 different sources at least, including ESPN and his BFF forever, Pat McAfee, saying that Aaron Rodgers is coming back to the Green Bay Packers. So as a Lions fan, thinking that, hey, he might be out the door. It's not happening. He's coming back. It's either been far over him, or it seems like my entire lifetime. It's torture me every fall, but they're back. I don't know if you.
It'll be over soon.
soon, like 5 years.
5 years, right?
He's on the
5
Brady.
years.
He could go on the Brady plan. He'll probably wait. He should probably wait till that contract runs out. So, like Brady, he can just pick whatever team he wants. He doesn't have to worry about gutting them and bringing back all the assets to Green Bay. That's for another time. We appreciate yours. Great job down there with Jim Harbaugh and all that news. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll keep delivering that fastball. Hope your shoulder's okay. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. See you, Brandon.
See ya.
There he is. We'll be back Monday. Or I'm sorry. Start that over. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday at 1:00. And we will be gearing up for the Big Ten tournament. And for me, I'm going to be gearing up for a lot of basketball. I'll be watching, like you, at 11:30 on Thursday, but it's not going to stop. It's going to continue into Friday through the weekend. There's only one thing that I like better than the conference tournaments this time of year, and it's the NCAA tournament. It's here. I'm ready for it. I'm taking it all in. I'm going to enjoy it to its maximum. Now, Michigan getting on a little run, like 2017, 2018. That would be nice. There's only one thing better than a long conference run to the weekend in a conference tournament, and that's a long run to the NCAA tournament. So it's here. I'm ready. We'll be discussing it, debating it, talking about it. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow, 1:00. Until then, for Brandon Justice, I'm Dennis Fithian.